There was a law in the bones of the land. I learned it before I learned how to polish silver in the king's halls. No daughter of the crown shall ever carry life, or the sky will split and pour its black teeth upon the fields. The old priest said the curse was older than the soil itself. They whispered that the first queen once birthed a god, and that the god opened his eyes and became a beast. So the daughters died. I helped dig 2 of the graves when I was younger, small ones, too small to be called graves at all. Some daughters were strangled in their cradles before the midwives finished washing them. Some were taken to the sea, with stones sewn into their gowns. Most were buried before their names were ever written. The king prayed through it all, though his hands were always bloody afterwards. But the last one, the final daughter, they let her live. No one ever told us why. Perhaps the king's heart cracked at last. Perhaps he forgot what grief cost. Or perhaps he has simply grown tired of digging graves behind the chapel. I saw her grow. Silent child, watchful. She walked the palace halls like someone listening to things the rest of us could not hear. There was something strange in the way she stood in the moonlight, too still, like a statue remembering how to breathe. The servants whispered constantly. They said she hummed to the walls at night. I heard it once while carrying coal to the kitchens. A thin little tune drifting towards the stone like it had no mouth. Some swore she left no footprints in the dust. Others said she spent hours in the locked library reading the same book. Then one winter, she began to swell. No man had touched her. We all knew it. Yet her belly grew day by day, and the kingdom began to rot with it. The cattle stopped giving milk. Bread came out the oven full of black feathers. Children were born with their mouths sealed shut like wax dolls. Even the scarecrows in the fields started whispering when the winds passed through them. The king summoned her to the throne room. I was there that day, standing behind the pillars with the other servants, trying not to breathe too loudly. She walked in barefoot. Her hair hung over her face like a veil she had grown herself. And she smiled, not the way children smile. "Let me fix it," she said. Then she went into the chapel and locked the doors behind her. 9 days passed. No one entered. No one dared. The bells did not ring, and the priest refused to speak the prayers aloud. We simply waited. On the 9th day, the doors opened. She came out carrying a bundle. I remember how quiet the room became when we saw the child. It wasn't crying, just breathing, faint and thin, wrapped in frostbitten parchment. The cord was still around his neck, looped 3 times like a crown. She walked straight to the throne. No one stopped her. Not the guards, not the priest, not even the king. She bent down, kissed the child's head gently, and drove a silver knife into his chest. The baby did not scream, but the sky did. The sound was so loud the windows cracked. Blood began seeping from the castle bricks as if the walls themselves had veins. Ravens outside the tower windows turned in the air and flew backwards. I swear the statues in the hall lowered their heads and covered their eyes. The king whispered, "It is done." But it wasn't. The princess suddenly doubled over. Her hands clutched her stomach like something inside had answered the knife. "I hear it," she said. Then she collapsed. At first I thought it was grief or pain. But then we all heard it. A knocking. Soft. Inside her. Another. Her knees struck the marble floor as the land itself seemed to shudder. Later, we heard what happened beyond the palace walls. Rivers turned to mirrors, people drowning in puddles while staring at their reflections, fields splitting open to grow teeth instead of grain. She stared at her stomach as something pushed outward from beneath the skin. The second child never came. It stayed inside her, and it was awake. It curled somewhere behind her heart and began to grow. It had no mouth, yet it spoke. The princess said it sang nursery rhymes against her ribs like someone scratching on a coffin lid.
Mother, mother, eat the sun. Let me out when all is done.
After that, she changed. Her skin thin like paper, her spine bent backwards until she could walk sideways through the palace halls. Sometimes I saw her shadow move before she did, stretching along the walls as if it were tasting the stone. The kingdom begged for an end. People prayed for fire, for salt, even for plague if it meant forgetting. The king could not bear it. One night, he forced his own crown down his throat. It took 3 days for him to die. When they carried the body out, gold was leaking from his eyes. But she remained, still wandering, still carrying something that had never learned death. And the sun has not returned since. It hangs somewhere behind the clouds, watching, but never rising. We live underground now, most of us who survived. I keep the old chapel keys even though the chapel is long gone. At night, we sing lullabies in the dark to keep the crying away. Because sometimes, in the tunnels, you hear a baby crying, but there is never a baby. And if you hear it, do not answer. Do not search. Do not speak. Because it is still trying to be born again. And it remembers us.